You believe you are stuck because you do not know what to do. That is not why. You know what to do. You have known for months, maybe years. What you call confusion is not confusion. It is a refusal, a specific refusal by a specific part of you, a part that has gone silent. And until you see which part has gone silent, you will keep calling your situation indecision when it is something far older, something the Kybalion already named, something that operates inside every mind, whether the mind notices it or not. And the moment you see it, the last 10 years of your life suddenly explain themselves, not as failure, not as bad luck, as one principle, refusing to function. There is a law in Hermetic philosophy. It is called the principle of gender. It does not refer to sex, it refers to operation. Inside every mind, two principles must function for anything to be created. The feminine, the principle that receives, gestates, holds the idea, refines it, develops it in silence, and the masculine, the principle that projects, decides, sends the idea outward, gives it form, forces it into the world. Both must operate, both are required. Without the feminine, nothing is conceived. Without the masculine, nothing is born. And here is what you have not been told. You are not stuck. You are gestating endlessly because the masculine principle inside you has refused to decide. Look at the last 12 months of your life. You have ideas, clear ones. You have plans, detailed ones. You have understood your situation. You have studied. You have read. You have prepared. You have rehearsed the future in your mind more times than you can count. What you do not have is a single decisive move, not a thought about a move, a move. You decide tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes a kind of country, a place where things are always about to begin, but never do. You wake up. You remember the plan. There is a brief charge of intention, and then the day takes its shape, the same shape. Something needs your attention. Something feels off. Something requires one more layer of thought. By evening, the day has passed without the decision being made, and you tell yourself tomorrow. You have said tomorrow more times in your life than any other word in your private vocabulary. You tell yourself you need more information. You do not. You tell yourself you are not ready. You have been ready for a long time. You tell yourself the timing is wrong. The timing has been wrong for years. You tell yourself you are still figuring it out. You are not figuring anything out. You are protecting the version of yourself that does not have to find out. You have written the same plan 3 times in 3 different notebooks. You have rehearsed the same conversation alone. You have told someone you trust that this is the year, and the warmth of having said it has been enough to make you not act on it. You have mistaken articulation for movement. You have mistaken understanding for change. You have mistaken intention for cause. None of them are. There is a voice inside you that explains every postponement. It is calm. It is reasonable. It sounds like wisdom. It tells you that this is not the right time, that you should think it through more carefully, that the consequences need to be considered. That voice is not protecting you. It is protecting the structure. It has been the same voice for years, using slightly different words, producing the same outcome. Listen to it once without obeying it. Notice that it never offers a date. It never offers a condition that could be met. It only offers reasons to wait. That is how you know it is not wisdom. Wisdom decides. Wisdom commits. Wisdom acts. What speaks inside you when the moment of decision arrives is the trained refusal, wearing the mask of judgment. What is actually happening is precise. The feminine inside you is doing its work, receiving, gestating, refining. It has been doing it perfectly, and the masculine is silent, watching, waiting, refusing. You did not fail to act. You activated only 1/2 of the law. If you value seeing the structure operating beneath your own life, subscribe. These conversations are not isolated, they build. And here is where most who study this principle miss the actual mechanism. The masculine principle is not strength, it is not aggression, it is not certainty, it is decision in the absence of certainty. That is its definition. The feminine waits for completeness, the masculine moves before it. Without the masculine, no idea ever leaves the womb of thought. This is why your plans never become reality. Not because the plans are wrong, the plans are good. Not because you do not want it, you want it. Not because you are weak, you are not weak. Because the masculine inside you has been trained to wait. Trained by every almost. Trained by every let me think about it. Trained by every I will start Monday. Each delay reinforced the same identity, the one who prepares, the one who almost begins, the one who is figuring it out. And the longer that identity rehearses, the harder it is for the masculine to act. Because acting now would mean abandoning the self that has been preparing for years. Notice the body when the moment of decision approaches. There is a tightening, a small contraction, a sudden need to check one more thing. That is not caution, that is not wisdom, that is the trained refusal expressing itself in flesh. The body has learned the rhythm of waiting. The mind has learned to call it patience. The identity has learned to call it strategy. It is none of those things. It is a single mechanism repeating, and every time you obey that contraction, the masculine inside you gets weaker. It does not disappear. It just stops responding. Like a muscle that has been told to wait so many times, it forgets it was made to move. This is the mechanism. You are not afraid of failure. You are afraid of the silence that comes after the gestation ends and the decision is finally made. Because that silence reveals something. It reveals that the years of preparation were not preparation. They were avoidance, wearing the costume of preparation. And inside the avoidance is something specific, a version of you that has built its entire identity on being the one who is about to start, about to commit, about to change. The about to identity is the safest identity ever invented. It cannot fail, it cannot disappoint, it cannot be measured. It only has to keep being about to, indefinitely. This is why the suggestion of finally deciding produces resistance that feels almost physical. Because the suggestion is not asking you to take an action. It is asking you to end an entire self. A self you have spent years rehearsing. The masculine principle, when it activates, does not just produce a result. It dissolves the identity that was built around not producing one. So what activates the masculine inside you? It does not require courage. It does not require certainty. It does not require the perfect plan. It requires one thing, a decision made before it is comfortable. Not a thought about a decision spoken, acted, made physical, not in your head, in the world. The masculine principle responds only to action, not to intention, not to clarity, not to readiness. It is activated by movement, even imperfect movement. This is the law. The feminine prepares, the masculine projects. And projection requires the willingness to be wrong. Most never decide, because deciding means committing to a path that may turn out to be incorrect. The masculine accepts that. It says, I will move now, I will adjust later. And in that one shift, years of stagnation collapse. You stop being the one who is preparing. You become the one who has begun. That single transition is the law of gender activating, not as theory, as mechanism. And the mechanism has a precise entry point. It is not a thought. It is not a feeling. It is not a decision made in the mind and stored there. It is a physical act that cannot be undone. A message sent, a meeting scheduled, a payment made, a draft published, a conversation begun, something that exists in the world after you do it, something that other people now know, something that cannot be quietly returned to gestation. That is projection. The masculine principle does not become real until something irreversible occurs. Most of what you have called deciding has been reversible. A thought you held privately, a plan you wrote in private, an intention you set in private. Private decisions never activate the masculine, they only deepen the feminine. The principle of gender requires that the inner conception exit the mind and produce a consequence the world can see. Until that happens, you remain pregnant, indefinitely. There is a cost. The cost is the death of an identity. The identity that has been preparing, researching, considering, almost moving. That self has comfort, it has familiarity, it has the safety of never being tested. You will lose that. When the masculine activates, that self disappears. You will no longer be the one who is figuring it out. You will be the one who has started. And that means you can be wrong now. You can fail visibly. You can be judged. You can no longer hide inside potential. Most do not refuse to decide because they are lazy. They refuse because deciding ends the dream that says, when I finally start, it will work. As long as you have not started, that dream is intact. The moment you start, the dream becomes a measurable outcome, and measurable outcomes can disappoint. This is the real fear, not failure. The end of the fantasy of unlimited future success. The masculine principle requires you to trade the infinite possibility of who you might become for the finite reality of who you actually are. Few are willing, which is why most lives remain in gestation forever, pregnant with potential, producing nothing, and the worst part is not the lack of result. The worst part is the slow erosion of belief. Each year that the gestation continues, without producing anything, the inner conviction weakens. You begin to suspect, not consciously, quietly, that perhaps the plans were never real, that perhaps the version of you who would do it does not exist, that perhaps you have been telling yourself a story, and once that suspicion enters, it becomes harder to project than ever, because now the masculine would have to act, not only against the comfort of preparation, but against the doubt that has been forming for years. This is how decades pass, not because the person is incapable, because the principle was never activated, and the inactivity itself produced the doubt that made activation feel impossible. Now look at 5 years ago. The you of 5 years ago had plans, clear plans, the same plans, slightly different wording, slightly different details, but the same structure, the same conviction that something was coming, the same belief that the right moment was near, the same private certainty that this time would be different. And yet here you are, the future has arrived, and the plans have not. If you went back through your messages from 5 years ago, you would find sentences you could send today without changing a single word. The same hopes, the same hesitations, the same explanations for why now is not yet the moment. That is not coincidence. That is the structure repeating. The same feminine gestating, the same masculine silent, the same identity preserving itself. This is what non-decision produces, not collapse, not catastrophe, repetition, years that look identical, months that compress into nothing. You did not lose those years to mistakes. You lost them to gestation without birth, to the feminine functioning alone, to preparation without projection, and 5 more years will pass. The same way, unless something interrupts the structure, not inspiration, not clarity, a decision, a specific decision, made before you are ready, made imperfectly, made anyway, that single act ends a decade of waiting, and nothing less will. So when? Not when you feel certain, because certainty does not arrive before action. It arrives because of action, not when conditions improve. Because the conditions you are waiting for are themselves produced by the decision you keep postponing. Not when you have more information. You have enough information. You have had enough information for 2 years, not next month. Next month is built from this one. The masculine does not respond to soon, it responds to now. And every soon you have spoken has been the feminine asking for more time, while the masculine watches in silence. The question is not whether you will eventually decide. The question is how many more years of gestation the part of you that refuses to project is allowed to take. Comment this: the masculine in me will decide. Not as a promise, as recognition that something inside you has been silent for too long, and naming it is the first projection, the first movement, the first proof that the principle is still alive in you. Most who watch this will return tomorrow to the same state. They will recognize the pattern, they will feel seen, and they will not decide, because recognition without projection is just another form of gestation, a more sophisticated version. The Kybalion did not name gender as a curiosity, it named it as a law, and the law says, nothing in your life will be born until the masculine inside you agrees to project before it is ready. You did not lack ideas, you lacked the act that ends the silence, and until that silence ends, nothing else changes.